Where did all the mechanics go? This is a topic that I think a lot of people worry about. They worry about two things if they have a classic Mercedes. Who's going to work on it, and where am I going to get parts? And both of these are legitimate concerns because parts supply from Mercedes, especially if you have a car that actually is a great car like a 123 series, in some areas has been not consistent or reliable. Like if I need upper control arms for my 123, I really don't want to put Limford or upper control arms on that are made in Malaysia. You know, I want TRW, German-made upper control arms that pass their rigorous quality standards and are still going to be good at 15 years. Now, if you don't drive your car much, whatever, but if you drive your car a lot and you're very picky about how the car drives and you can tell that there's a non-Mercedes part in it, great. But there's another side of this whole thing that bothers a lot of people, and the question of where all the mechanics went is a very pressing one. And the good thing is that there's not really bad news here. It's just that there's a paradigm shift in how people work on cars, because in 1970 you didn't see people bringing cars from the 1930s in for daily service. Cars like that, or trucks like that, I should say, might still be used at a farm. But in 1970, it wasn't normal to have a 1930 Mercedes coming in for service. In 1990, it wasn't normal to have a 1950 Mercedes coming in for service. And in 2000, it was still kind of a thing, but you didn't see a lot of Mercedes from 1960 or 61 or 62 coming in for service. However, the cars got so much better and so much more modern that here in 2020, we're seeing cars from 1970 in for regular service because those cars were that good. So the problem was that when these cars were new, you didn't see a lot of mechanics doing or having to do exhaustive restoration work on them because they were very good cars. And actually the idea of fully sorting a car and doing exhaustive work on it on a Mercedes in the 1960s started to become a thing in the 90s. And then, you know, in the 90s and 2000s, people were still figuring out this process. I know that one epiphany I had back in 2005 was that these cars were not going anywhere. And this was after I met my friend Herman Alzamora. Herman was Dr. Alzamora's son. So Rafael Alzamora, who was my really good friend, brought me his 72-300 SEL 4.5. And Herman, his son, had contacted me and he said to me, my father has this old 300 SEL 4.5 that he loves, and you're the only person that seems to be interested in working on this car, you know, based on your reputation at Mercedes Club. And at the time, I was 21 years old. And so it was not so much that I was experienced, I was just very stubborn, willing to lay on my back for hours, getting things like an air suspension valve to go in the right way. And so one of the things that I figured out was that people were already starting to see problems with getting these older cars serviced. And the three problems that I identified then were that most shops have an infrastructure that does not cater to having older cars, because most shops get addicted to a large amount of fast cash from doing easy work. If I could spend all day doing brake jobs over and over again on BMWs, why would I want to spend 15 hours in the climate control of a 47-year-old W116? The second thing is that a lot of mechanics who should have passed these skills along didn't, because of this thing in the automotive repair world called flat rate. And flat rate is basically a type of survival of the fittest. If you can bang a job out in a certain amount of time, you make more money per hour. If you take more time to do it, you make less money. If you take less time to do it, you make more money. So the process does not encourage high quality repairs. Rather, it encourages fast turnaround. And when you're busy slugging out flat rate jobs, you don't want to stop and teach a 20-year-old guy or a 15-year-old guy how to do the work. You just want to get the freaking job done. And so because of this generation of flat rate mechanics, it left a massive knowledge gap. Now you see guys in their 20s, 30s, a lot of them in their 20s that are sort of working their way through these cars. And there's a reason that there was such a gap, because these cars have transitioned from being a profession where you work on them or go to a shop to learn how to work on them and the knowledge is sort of locked up in the automotive repair world, to being a hobby where you see guys that want to be part of the Mercedes brand or Mercedes history, but they know that they're not going to get dealership training on a 40 or 50-year-old 123 or 108 or 107, and so they undertake it, they take it upon themselves to learn how to do this stuff. And so there is a gap, but the gap is getting filled with brilliant 20-year-old minds that want to do this stuff. And, you know, now looking back at the last 20 years of doing this, I realized that having a little bit of mentorship goes a long way. I wasn't blessed with a lot of mentorship with the cars, but what I do believe in is mentoring younger people so that they know how to do things the right way without having to repeat the process 10 times, getting better every time. It's just better if you show someone the right way to do things. And if they want to add to it to make it better for them, great. But, you know, nobody told me when I was 19 years old, if you're going to take apart a whole engine bay, you have the option of yellow zinc plating everything to preserve all the finishes and all the ferrous pieces you work with. Some mechanics never learned that. They just wanted to get the car back together. So a third factor that comes into play here is I think that how would I describe this? If you want to teach people to do something, you have to create the infrastructure to do it. There is currently no infrastructure anywhere other than apprenticeships for people to learn how to work on or restore older cars. So if you're an older mechanic, the last thing you do before you should retire is you should pick a person who wants to learn and pass your skill set on to them. Because this skill set is going to go away if you don't teach it. And a lot of people don't like to teach, and it's especially because in the line of work that most mechanics do, sorry, I'm a little thirsty, there's a lot of introversion. And the introversion factor with mechanics and machinists and restorers makes knowledge very hard to transfer. Most people who have been doing this for 50 years see their skill set as worthless as it applies to these cars that are 50 years old. That's why you see huge collections of NOS parts going in the trash. That's why you see cars that maybe need, 40 hours of work getting parted out because of this thing called apathy. And I'm here to say, if you're an older technician, the skills you have matter, and you should try to pass them on to somebody who's younger. And saying, oh, nobody wants to learn, well, the truth was you were special when you were 20 because you wanted to learn this. And today somebody who's 20 years old and wants to learn this is also special. And you can't just write them off because there are no automotive repair programs at colleges or machining programs at high schools or shop classes at high schools anymore. You have to become the shop class. You have to become the person who gives the infrastructure. And this is extremely hard, but we're going to see this problem in a lot of areas in society. Get ready, because it's not just going to affect getting your 50-year-old Mercedes fixed. It's going to affect things like finance and medicine and I don't know what else. Carpentry, house building, concrete work, transportation infrastructure. The thing is, we stand a better chance because there's a large amount of passion connected with automotive restoration. Some of these other jobs don't, because nobody goes into them other than for the money. And when you take the financial incentive away, you know, like they have recently with medicine, because of all the regulation involved that has made being a doctor being a nightmare, what can you do? You know, all my friends who are doctors are like, oh, I wish I could restore older cars every day. So this is a problem in a lot of professions. People get sick of it and they leave. You know, it's just, we have to forget about things like the flat rate system and get to work teaching the next generation. So if you guys like this video and found it helpful and informative, please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications, and you know, give some of our other videos a watch. Thank you guys so much.